What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. Hope that you guys are having a wonderful Monday evening. So it is official. Jimmy Kimmel is back. The statement that ABC made today, it says the Walt Disney Company issued the following statement today regarding Jimmy Kimmel Live. Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation and an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. It wasn't even a full week, y'all, not even a full 7 days. And I'm going to go ahead and give my speculation real quick on what I think happened. Because what I think happened was that people started dropping their Disney cruises. They started canceling those Disney subscriptions. They started pulling out from the Disney passes. A lot of people online were saying they were, canceling Disney Plus, Hulu, all those things to the around the tune of approximately $4 billion. Um, and that was within like a short, 24 48 hour span. It happened really quick. As soon as Jimmy Kimmel was suspended indefinitely after the monologue that he made, they the numbers started dropping and the stock started dropping. So let's hear what NBC has to say. NBC News writes the Jimmy Kimmel's late night show will return to the ABC airwaves on Tuesday, nearly a week after it was suspended, amid criticism of the host's remarks about the unaliving of conservative artist CK. Now, I'm not going to say his name because I feel like it'll trigger the algorithm and I don't need the headache. So, but y'all know who it is, CK. And many households across the U.S. still may not see the show. Sinclair, a company that operates more than 35 ABC affiliates across the U.S., said that it would replace Kimmel with news programming. Beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting the Jimmy Kimmel Live show across ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing as we evaluate the show's potential return, Sinclair said in a statement. ABC's announcement ends at an impasse that had drawn national attention, plunging Disney into a political firestorm at the intersection of debates over free speech and cancel culture. But the Sinclair statement highlights how ABC's decision is only part of the ongoing negotiations that would return Kimmel to TVs across the US. Disney, which owns ABC, said in a statement, quote, last Wednesday we made the, okay, I just read that and I have it up there for you guys. So ABC pulled the show Wednesday after the Federal Communications Commission chair Brandon Carr threatened action over Kimmel's comments, which he described in a podcast interview as, quote, the sickest conduct possible, end quote. See, I don't think what he said was all that negative. First of all, he wasn't even talking about CK. He was talking about, the president because the reporters asked him on the front line, how he felt and how he was coping with CK's death. And he made, I think, like a really brief statement about it and then turned the attention to the construction of the $200 million golden ballroom that they're building on the White House lawn. I mean, just he does these like over the top, grandiose, ridiculous waste of taxpayer funds. It's out of control. People are fighting for their lives over these tariffs, and he's building a $200 million ballroom. But anyway, so Kimmel says, yeah, the fourth stage of grief, construction. I don't think that was, such a huge deal. Like, you know what, to be honest, y'all, I'm just going to keep it a buck. I really didn't even know who CK was until, I knew, I heard about him similarly to other podcasters, but I'm thinking to myself, like, that's who he was. He was a podcaster. He dropped out of community college. So all the things, in my opinion, and this is just my thoughts, but the things that he was saying, um, a lot of the vitriol and stuff, like people were losing their jobs for quoting him directly. And it's just like, I didn't realize that a podcaster, a community college dropout, could speak about anybody's credentials, or, talking about how he hopes that a black pilot is qualified, or that he doesn't think Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson is qualified. These people have degrees upon degrees upon degrees upon hours of, you know, qualifications. They could run circles around this kid. And 31 is not a kid, but I'm just saying, like, you're a community college dropout. And his words just didn't land with me, right? I didn't realize that he had such a strong following, um, or that he was, like, people were acting like he was this huge political official. Like the flags were lowered half mast, and they had that huge rally, I guess, for his funeral. The funeral was 8 hours long. I'm like, what in the Aretha Franklin is going on with an 8 hour long, uh, funeral? He dropped out of community college, and then he got funded from a billionaire to start Turning Point. He got multi-millions of dollars. I think it was like around like $4 million, if I'm not mistaken, to start Turning Point USA. And he, was close with like Candace Owens. But that's the thing, like, I don't put a lot of stock into people's opinions that I don't respect. Like, if he were to say to me, and I don't think anybody's better than anybody else either. That's another reason why I never listened to him. Like, similarly to, like Kevin Samuels. Like, I would hear clips of the things that he would say, but I would just pay him dust, because it's like, his opinion really didn't matter much. I mean, he didn't, he wasn't married. He wasn't, happy in my eyes, because you wouldn't be scrutinizing other people's lives like that if you were truly happy. And the way that he went out of here, um, I feel like both of them in that instance, life and death really are in the power of the tongue. So I'm gonna, keep my opinions concise before I get in trouble. But when I think about how they both left this world, and about what they said and what they spoke, it was the irony in both of their situations. But anyway, Kimmel's back. Let me continue reading this. I didn't think that this was gonna be such a huge deal. So for, the FCC chair to say that Kimmel's comments were, quote, the sickest conduct possible, I'm like, most of his monologue wasn't even talking about the things that he said. He was talking about Trump's response, or lack thereof, right? Trump was spending more time talking about the ballroom than he was the passing of, this beloved, podcaster that they're turning into a martyr, so to speak. Um, Nexstar and Sinclair, two companies that own ABC affiliate stations across the United States, then announced that they would yank Kimmel's show. ABC followed suit, saying it would suspend the show indefinitely. In a monologue last week, Kimmel expressed condolences to CK's family, but criticized Republicans for their reaction to his unaliving. We hit some new lows over the weekend, with MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize the kid who unalived CK as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. And that's another thing that really bothered me, is the fact that even though before they found out who it was, within that 24-hour span, HBCUs were targeted and threatened. And it's just like, how did we get in it? You know what I mean? Like, I understand because of the history of our nation, we're the scapegoats. But the fact that so many HBCUs, I think it was around like 8 or 9, were targeted and had to, stop operations and stop educating their students because of these threats were ridiculous. And then they came to find out that it was one of theirs. The Utah governor was talking about he was praying for 30 something hours, 33 hours, praying and asking the Lord to, make it not one of theirs. And it's like, do you not see that people who may, worship differently than you or look differently than you, they're still human beings? We're all human beings. We might have cultural differences or, differences of the level of melanin in our skin, but that's it. We're still the same species. We're still human beings. Like, these people are so apathetic, and that's the issue. I feel like if people truly would live half the principles that they teach, right? The Bible talks about loving thy neighbor and, treating other people like you want to be treated. Just that basic premise, right? You can sum up all the laws Jesus said and love, love your neighbor as yourself. If they did that, we wouldn't have half of the problems that they had. And then when they did find out that the person was one of theirs, right? He was a far right guy. He listened to Nick Fuentes, who I guess basically unalived CK because his own ideology wasn't far right enough. It's ridiculous. The fashions and all this internet meme stuff. It's just like, first of all, who has the time for all of that? And secondly, it's just really toxic. It's really toxic. The fact that people can really lose their livelihoods over quoting this man is so ridiculous. When someone dies, that's the first thing that they do. Like, they were comparing him to Dr. Martin Luther King. People quote Dr. King every year on his birthday. You can do that. And it honors his family, it honors his legacy and his memory. They're quoting CK and they're getting, their livelihood snatched away from them, Jimmy Kimmel included. And it's ridiculous. But because of the power of the people, Jimmy is back. Let's finish up this article. Oh, okay. So the following day, the authorities in Utah said that the man accused of unaliving CK started to lean more left in recent months and targeted him for his political expression. Monday, the FCC chair denied that he threatened to revoke the broadcast licenses of the ABC affiliates. He said, what I spoke about last week was that concerns were raised about the news distortion. There's a way, an easy way, for parties to address that and work that out. That takes place between local television stations that are licensed by the FCC and what we call national programmers like Disney. They work that out. There doesn't need to be any involvement of the FCC. The FCC, Nexstar, and the White House did not immediately respond to requests for comment Monday. It's not clear as of early Monday evening whether Kimmel's return would air on stations owned by Nexstar. Oh, this article is really long. So I'll link it if you guys want to read the rest of the article. But basically, I mean, I'm glad that Jimmy, is coming back. He is rich and he is well known. Him and Stephen Colbert could easily, sit down at a podcast and make just as much, if not more money than they're making right now, and they could probably label it something like canceled comedians or whatever, canceled culture communities or something like that. But the fact that, people really rallied behind, Jimmy and started canceling their subscriptions, that's how you make change happen. That's what made the Civil Rights Act successful. It was the Montgomery bus boycotts. That's why Target is, from what I heard, people on TikTok are saying that Target is, um, um, that they're allegedly, right, that they're selling their merchandise through like hidden shops. There's one guy was talking about he bought some paper towels from some shop that I forget the name of it that he said, but it wasn't Target or whatever. When he received the box, it had the Target seal and the little symbol, the Target symbol on it, with the red tape on it. And he's like, oh man, it was a laundry basket. That's what it was. He's like, oh man, I really need this laundry basket. But he's like, I don't mess with Target like that. And I never meant to buy anything from there. But I mean, they're going into hiding, you know what I mean? And their stock is completely plummeted. So when people come together and they consolidate power and they use their dollars, their economic power, that's what creates change. Jimmy wasn't even gone for a full week. He's already going to be back on the air, tomorrow. That's power. There, and I really wish that more people will understand that we're more powerful together than we are separated and divided. And once we get that message, we can change this country. We can create it to be what we want it to be. It does not have to be so negative all the time. But anyway, congratulations to Jimmy Kimmel and to everyone who was successful in their boycotts. I wasn't subscribed to Disney, so I didn't have anything to cancel. Um, but I do believe in a good boycott. I haven't bought any hair products for the month of September. I know that boycott is still going on. This is Black owned. I have plenty, so I didn't need to buy anything Black owned or not. But just doing that, there's so much power in in economics and your dollar. So be wise with your money and your time. If there's a podcaster out there, regardless of demographics, but if they're speaking negatively about people who look like me, there's no way I'm going to give them my time and my energy. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, shout out to Sweet Brown. Ain't nobody got time for that. Seriously, we have a very limited amount of time on this blue spinning rock. And it would be such a disservice to me and all those who came before me for me to lend my ears to some foolishness and some tomfoolery like that. And again, and it's unfortunate because, CK, he had to find out the hard way. And a lot of things that he said, um, you know, I mean, it was a manifestation. And I believe that. I truly believe that life and death are really in the power of the tongue. That every single person reaps what they sow, good, bad, or indifferent. So I really, try, and I pray for wisdom daily, but I try to, stay current with the trends and hot topics and stuff. But I also try to be mindful of what I say because it literally can create life and death and create the world around you. So, um, you know, people spoke with their dollars. Jimmy will be back on the air tomorrow. If you guys want to follow up with his monologue, I never really watched a lot of Jimmy Kimmel either, but I might, tune in tomorrow and see what he has to say. At least catch the clips online. But I'm glad that he's back. You know what I mean? I'm glad that people came behind him and stood behind him and used their power to speak to these corporations because that's what they understand. So, and I'm glad to see more of it. Like I want more of this, collective change going. I think that if we come together more often, we can do it. Social media is a powerful tool again, which is why unfortunately a lot of them are being taken over by these billionaires. I feel like that's why Elon Musk bought Twitter. It's why TikTok has completely changed and now is being taken over by right wing billionaires. And Mark Zuckerberg, he's pretty right wing as well, unfortunately, with Facebook and Instagram. But I hope that more people, start to create other competing social media platforms. Um, and we'll see those power dynamics change in the favor of the people, and then that'll be a true democracy. So you guys let me know your thoughts about Jimmy Kimmel returning tomorrow. Will you watch? Let me know in the comment section. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.